The fluorescent lights of Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport Security Office buzzed overhead as Samantha Sam Chen sat handcuffed to a metal chair, her wrists raw from the too tight restraints. The small room reeked of stale coffee and industrial disinfectant, its concrete walls painted an institutional beige that seemed designed to break spirits. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you one more time," Agent Martinez said, his TSA badge catching the harsh light as he leaned across the metal table. "What is the purpose of your visit to Washington, D.C.? Sam kept her eyes fixed on the two-way mirror behind him, her jaw set in defiance. She'd been in this room for 3 hours, missing her connecting flight, while these overzealous security agents treated her like a terrorist. All because of a misunderstanding that could have been cleared up with one phone call if they'd bothered to listen. "I already told you," she said, her voice hoarse from repeating the same information. "I'm attending a veterans reunion." "A veterans reunion?" Agent Rodriguez scoffed from her position by the door. "You expect us to believe that someone who looks like you served in combat?" Sam was 28, petite at 5'4", with shoulder-length black hair and the kind of delicate features that made people assume she'd never seen anything more dangerous than a college campus. The fitted jeans and black t-shirt she wore did nothing to suggest military service, exactly the way she preferred it. "Ma'am, we've run your ID through every database we have access to," Agent Martinez continued, shuffling through a stack of papers. "Samantha Chen, age 28, no military record on file, no employment history with any government agency. In fact, your background is so clean it's suspicious." "That's because my service record is classified," Sam said for the 20th time. Agent Rodriguez laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the concrete walls. "Right, classified. Let me guess. You were some kind of super-secret spy, and now you can't talk about it." Sam's hands clenched into fists, the handcuffs biting into her wrists. These people had no idea what they were dealing with. For 8 years, she'd served in units that didn't officially exist, carrying out missions in places that weren't supposed to be on any map. She'd earned her scars in the mountains of Afghanistan, the deserts of Syria, and the urban wastelands of Iraq. "The items in your carry-on are concerning," Agent Martinez said, pulling out evidence bags. "Tactical pens, paracord bracelet, a compass disguised as a button. These aren't typical tourist items. They're everyday carry items for someone with my background," Sam replied evenly. "What background would that be, exactly?" Agent Rodriguez pressed. Sam closed her eyes, fighting the urge to tell them exactly what her background was. To explain that the tactical pens had saved her life in Kandahar when she'd used them to pick locks on the building where her team was being held. That the paracord had been used to rappel down a 6-story building in Damascus while under enemy fire. That the compass had guided her through 40 miles of desert when her unit's GPS had been compromised. But she couldn't say any of that. Even now, 3 years after her discharge, the operations she'd been part of remained buried under layers of classification that would take decades to declassify, if ever. "Look," Agent Martinez said, his tone shifting to what he probably thought was understanding. "We get it. A lot of people like to play dress-up, pretend they're something they're not. There's no shame in admitting you're just a regular civilian." That was it. The last straw. Sam's head snapped up, her dark eyes blazing with a fury that made both agents take an involuntary step back. "A regular civilian?" she repeated, her voice deadly quiet. "Ma'am, please remain calm," Agent Rodriguez said, her hand moving instinctively toward her radio. "Do you want to know what a regular civilian looks like?" Sam asked, standing as much as the handcuffs would allow. "A regular civilian doesn't wake up screaming from nightmares about watching her teammates die. A regular civilian doesn't flinch every time a car backfires because it sounds like incoming mortars." The room had gone dead silent. A regular civilian," Sam continued, her voice rising, "doesn't have to carry a letter from the Department of Defense explaining why her service record is classified, because a regular civilian never spent 8 years hunting down the kind of people who plan to kill American families while they sleep." Agent Martinez and Rodriguez exchanged uncertain glances. "Ma'am, if you have documentation," Martinez began. "I tried to show you my letter," Sam snapped. "You confiscated it with the rest of my belongings and called it suspicious documentation. You want proof? Check my left shoulder blade." Both agents looked confused. "My unit patch," Sam explained, her patience finally exhausted. "It's tattooed on my left shoulder blade, but I'm not taking my shirt off in front of you two without a female officer present and a lawyer." Agent Rodriguez stepped forward. "Dish, what kind of unit patch?" "The kind that doesn't officially exist," Sam said. "The kind that only 5 people in this entire airport would recognize, and 2 of them would have to kill you after showing it to you." The sarcasm in her voice was thick, but underneath it was something else, something that made both agents pause. There was an authority in her bearing now, a confidence that spoke of someone accustomed to command, to life and death decisions, to responsibilities these airport security agents couldn't imagine. "Ma'am," Agent Martinez said carefully, "if you're claiming to be military—" "I'm not claiming anything," Sam cut him off. "I'm telling you exactly what I am. The question is whether you're smart enough to listen." The door to the interrogation room suddenly opened, and a third TSA agent stuck his head in. "Martinez, Rodriguez, we need you out here. Now." "We're in the middle of—" Rodriguez began. "Now," the agent repeated, his voice urgent. As the 2 agents left the room, Sam slumped back in her chair, exhaustion washing over her. She'd been traveling for 18 hours, trying to get to Washington for a reunion she'd been looking forward to for months. 8 members of her old unit, getting together for the first time since their deployment ended. 8 warriors who'd shared the kind of bond that only came from facing death together. And now she was stuck in a TSA detention room, being treated like a criminal by people who wouldn't last 5 minutes in the world she'd lived in for 8 years. Through the 2-way mirror, she could see the agents talking urgently with someone she couldn't quite make out. Their body language had changed, where before they'd been confident, even cocky. Now they looked nervous, uncertain. Good, she thought. Maybe now they'd... The door opened again, and Agent Martinez walked back in, his face pale. "Ms. Chen," he said, his voice significantly more respectful than before. "Would we need to discuss your tattoo?" Agent Martinez approached the table with a tablet in his hands, his earlier swagger completely absent. Behind him, Agent Rodriguez looked like she'd seen a ghost, her face drained of color. "Ms. Chen," Martinez began, setting the tablet on the table, "we've had a development in your case." Sam raised an eyebrow but said nothing. She'd learned long ago that silence was often more powerful than words. "We contacted our supervisor about your claims," Martinez continued, his voice careful and measured. He made some calls." "What kind of calls?" Sam asked, though she was beginning to suspect where this was heading. Rodriguez stepped forward, her hands visibly shaking. "Ma'am, we need to verify your tattoo. Would you be willing to show it to a female officer?" "Depends," Sam said. "Are you going to keep treating me like a terrorist, or are you finally ready to listen?" "We're ready to listen," Martinez said quickly. "Officer Williams will be here in a moment. She's cleared for this." That phrase, "cleared for this," told Sam everything she needed to know. Someone up the chain had made a phone call, and suddenly her detention had become something much more serious than overzealous airport security. Officer Williams entered the room a few minutes later. She was a tall, professional-looking woman in her 40s, with the bearing of someone who'd been military herself. Her eyes met Sam's with a look of understanding and respect that had been absent from the other agents. "Ms. Chen," Officer Williams said, "I'm Officer Janet Williams, former Army Intelligence. I understand you have a unit patch tattoo that needs verification." "Former Army Intel," Sam nodded approvingly. "And at least someone in this place has some sense. If you're comfortable with it, I'd like to take a photograph of the tattoo and send it to the appropriate parties." Sam studied Williams' face, seeing something there that told her this woman understood the gravity of the situation. "You know what kind of units have classified patches, don't you?" "I have an idea," Williams said quietly. "Ma'am, I need you to know that whatever happens next is above my pay grade. Way above it." Sam sighed and stood, turning her back to Williams. "Do what you need to do." She pulled her t-shirt over her head, revealing the intricate tattoo that covered her left shoulder blade. It was a work of art, a stylized dagger piercing through a globe, surrounded by 13 stars, and the Latin words De oppresso liber beneath it. Officer Williams' sharp intake of breath told Sam that she recognized it. "Jesus Christ," Williams whispered, then caught herself. "Mom, I need to photograph this immediately." The camera flash filled the room as Williams took several shots from different angles. Sam could hear Martinez and Rodriguez whispering behind her, but their words were lost in the sudden urgency that had filled the room. "Mom, you can put your shirt back on," Williams said, her voice tight with what sounded like awe. "I need to make a call. Now." As Sam dressed, she watched Williams step into the corner and dial a number on a secure phone. The conversation was brief and conducted in hushed tones, but Sam caught enough to confirm her suspicions. "Yes, sir." "Confirmed. Unit patch is authentic." "Yes, sir. She's been in detention for 3 hours." "No, sir. We had no idea." "Yes, sir. Immediately." Williams ended the call and turned back to the group, her expression grave. "Martinez, Rodriguez, you need to remove those handcuffs right now," she ordered. "But Officer Williams," Martinez began. "Right now," Williams repeated, her voice carrying military authority. "Ms. Chen, I need to inform you that we've contacted the Pentagon. They're sending someone to speak with you." Sam rubbed her wrists as the handcuffs came off, circulation returning in painful tingles. "How long until they get here?" "They're already here," Williams said. "They were at the airport when we made the call. Apparently, they've been tracking your travel." "Of course they have," Sam muttered. "Once you'd been part of certain units, you never really left." The government always kept tabs on their former operators, especially ones who'd been involved in the kind of missions Sam had participated in. The door opened, and 2 men in dark suits entered the room. They had the unmistakable look of federal agents, alert, professional, and carrying themselves with the confidence of people who rarely heard the word no. "Ms. Chen," the older of the 2 men said, "I'm Agent Bradley, FBI. This is Agent Foster. We apologize for the inconvenience you've experienced today." Sam studied their faces, noting the deference in their posture. These weren't just FBI agents. They were the kind of FBI agents who dealt with matters of national security. "The inconvenience of being treated like a terrorist for 3 hours?" Sam asked, her voice sharp with contained anger. "Yes, ma'am," Agent Bradley said without hesitation. "There will be a full review of the procedures that led to this incident. But right now, we need to discuss why you're traveling to Washington." "I already told them," Sam said, gesturing toward Martinez and Rodriguez, who were looking increasingly uncomfortable. "Veterans reunion." "Ma'am," Agent Foster spoke for the first time, "we know about the reunion. What we need to understand is why 8 former members of Task Force Black were specifically requested to attend a classified briefing at the Pentagon." Sam's blood ran cold. She hadn't known about any classified briefing. As far as she knew, this was just a reunion. Old teammates getting together to catch up, share war stories, maybe raise a glass to the ones who didn't make it home. "I don't know anything about a briefing," she said carefully. "According to our information," Agent Bradley continued, "you and 7 other former operators have been summoned for a matter of national security. The invitations were sent through back channels, coded as reunion notifications." Sam's mind raced. If this was true, if her old unit was being recalled for something, it meant the situation was serious. Task Force Black had been disbanded 3 years ago after their final mission in Syria. They were deep cover operators, the kind of soldiers who were sent when conventional special forces weren't enough. "Who else is going to be there?" she asked. Agent Foster consulted his tablet. "Staff Sergeant Michael Torres, Sergeant First Class Elena Vasquez, Sergeant James a Tank, Morrison, Corporal Lisa Park, Specialist David Chen, no relation to you, Sergeant Angela Woods, and Sergeant First Class Marcus Johnson. Sam's heart clenched. Her old team, her family, the people who'd kept her alive through 8 years of hell, and whom she'd kept alive in return. "What kind of briefing?" she asked. "That's classified above our level," Agent Bradley admitted. "But Ms. Chen, we need you to understand something. The fact that you're all being brought together, it suggests a threat that requires your specific skill set." Sam looked around the room at the TSA agents who'd spent the last 3 hours treating her like a criminal. Agent Martinez looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Agent Rodriguez was staring at her with something approaching awe. "Officer Williams," Sam said, turning to the former Army intelligence officer, "you understand what this means, don't you?" Williams nodded grimly. "Yes, ma'am. It means they're putting the band back together." And that, Sam knew, only happened when something very bad was about to go down. The Pentagon's basement levels were a maze of secure corridors and classified meeting rooms, far removed from the tourist areas and public spaces above. Sam walked between Agent Bradley and Agent Foster, her civilian clothes feeling strange in this environment where uniforms and security badges were the norm. "Conference room Delta 7, Agent Foster said, stopping at a heavy steel door marked with various security warnings. "Your teammates are already inside." Sam's heart raced as she approached the door. It had been 3 years since she'd seen any of them. 3 years since their final mission had gone sideways and gotten half their support team killed. 3 years since they'd been quietly disbanded and sent back to civilian life with enough medals to fill a shoebox and enough trauma to last several lifetimes. The door opened to reveal a familiar face, Staff Sergeant Michael Torres, her former team leader. His dark hair was longer now, civilian style, but his eyes still held the sharp intelligence that had kept them all alive through countless missions. "Ghost," he said, using her old call sign. "About damn time." Sam stepped into the room and felt 3 years of civilian life fall away like a discarded coat. Around the conference table sat her old unit, her family, Elena Vasquez, the demolitions expert whose steady hands had disarmed more IEDs than anyone had a right to survive. Tank Morrison, the heavy weapons specialist whose enormous frame hid a tactical mind that could outthink any enemy commander. Lisa Park, their communications specialist, who could hack any system and intercept any transmission. David Chen, the medic who'd patched them up more times than any of them could count. Angela Woods, their sniper, whose confirmed kill count was higher than some entire units. And Marcus Johnson, their intelligence analyst, who could read enemy movements like a chess grandmaster. "Jesus," Tank said, standing up from a chair that looked comically small under his 6'6" frame. "Sam, you look like a regular person." "Thanks, I think," Sam replied, accepting hugs from each of her former teammates. The years melted away as if they'd never been apart. "All right, people, settle in," Torres said, resuming his position at the head of the table. We've got company coming." As if on cue, the door opened and 3 people entered. The first was a woman in her 50s, wearing the uniform of a full colonel, her bearing suggesting someone accustomed to command at the highest levels. Behind her came 2 civilians, a man in his 40s with the soft appearance of an analyst, and a woman whose expensive suit and confident demeanor screamed senior intelligence official. "Task Force Black," the colonel said, her voice carrying absolute authority. "I'm Colonel Sarah Mitchell, Special Operations Command. This is Dr. James Wright from the Defense Intelligence Agency and Ms. Rebecca Harrison from the Central Intelligence Agency." Sam felt the familiar weight of classified briefings settling over the room. Whatever this was about, it was big. "Before we begin," Colonel Mitchell continued, "I need to remind you that everything discussed in this room is classified at the TSSCI level, the same level as your former operations. Understood?" 8 voices responded in unison. "Yes, ma'am." "Good." The colonel activated a wall-mounted screen that displayed a map of Eastern Europe. "Gentlemen and ladies, we have a problem. Dr. Wright stepped forward, adjusting his glasses nervously. 3 weeks ago, a cargo ship disappeared in the Black Sea. The MV Prometheus, registered in Panama, carrying what the manifest listed as agricultural equipment, bound for Romania. The screen switched to show a photograph of a large cargo vessel. However, Dr. Wright continued, our intelligence indicates that the Prometheus was actually carrying something much more dangerous. Specifically, a cache of weapons-grade plutonium stolen from a decommissioned Russian facility. Sam felt her blood run cold. She exchanged glances with her teammates, seeing the same grim understanding in their faces. How much plutonium? Elena asked. Enough to build 12 nuclear devices, Ms. Harrison replied, her CIA credentials evident in her crisp, matter-of-fact delivery. The dirty bombs, most likely, though with the right expertise, possibly actual nuclear weapons. And you think this is connected to our old theater of operations? Torres asked. Colonel Mitchell nodded. The ship's last known position was near the Crimean Peninsula. More importantly, our intelligence suggests it was hijacked by a group you're all very familiar with, the Shadow Brigade. The room fell silent. The Shadow Brigade was a terrorist organization. They'd spent 2 years hunting through Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Led by a former Russian Spetsnaz operator known only as the Wolf, the brigade specialized in acquiring and weaponizing military hardware for sale to the highest bidder. We thought we eliminated the brigade in Damascus, Marcus said, his voice tense. You eliminated the Syrian cell, Ms. Harrison corrected. But the Wolf survived, and he's been rebuilding. Our sources indicate he's moved operations to Eastern Europe, focusing on the black market weapons trade. And now, he has enough plutonium to level half of Europe, Angela added grimly. Or half of the United States, Dr. Wright said. Intelligence suggests the brigade is planning to smuggle the material into Conus through the port of Norfolk. From there, it could be distributed to sleeper cells in major American cities. Colonel Mitchell stepped forward. This is why you're here. Task Force Black has more experience hunting the Shadow Brigade than any other unit in the military. You know their tactics, their leadership, their weaknesses. Ma'am, Torres said carefully, with all due respect, we've been civilians for 3 years. We're not exactly in fighting shape anymore. Actually, the colonel replied with a slight smile, you'd be surprised. We've been monitoring all of you since your discharge. Regular psychological evaluations, fitness assessments, security clearance updates. You've all maintained operational readiness, whether you realized it or not. Sam felt a chill run down her spine. They'd been watching, evaluating, keeping them ready for exactly this kind of situation. The mission, Colonel Mitchell continued, is to locate the missing plutonium and neutralize the Shadow Brigade before they can carry out their attack. You'll have full operational authority, unlimited resources, and the backing of every intelligence agency in the United States. What's the timeline? Tank asked. 72 hours, Ms. Harrison replied. And our analysis suggests that's the maximum time before the brigade attempts to move the plutonium out of Europe. And if we can't find it in time? Lisa asked. The room fell silent. They all knew the answer. Then we start evacuating major American cities and hope for the best, Colonel Mitchell said quietly. Torres looked around the table at his former teammates. Mo and I need a minute to confer with my people. The 3 officials left the room, leaving Task Force Black alone for the first time in 3 years. Well, Torres said after the door closed, anybody else feel like they just got drafted back into hell? The question is, Sam said, are we really ready for this? The abandoned warehouse in Constanța, Romania, reeked of salt air and diesel fuel from the nearby port. Task Force Black crouched in the shadows, their civilian clothes replaced by tactical gear that felt both foreign and familiar after 3 years away from combat. Target building, 12 o'clock. Angela whispered into her throat mic from her sniper position on a neighboring rooftop. I count 6 hostiles on the perimeter, AK-74s, professional movement patterns. Sam checked her watch. They'd been in Romania for 18 hours, following a trail of intelligence breadcrumbs that had led from a corrupt shipping clerk in Odessa to a black market arms dealer in Bucharest, and finally to this warehouse complex on the Black Sea coast. "Ghost, tank, you're on point," Torres ordered through their comms. "Elena, Lisa, take the back entrance. Marcus, David, you're with me on Overwatch." Sam felt the familiar rush of pre-combat adrenaline as she and Tank moved toward the warehouse's main entrance. Her HK-4116 felt natural in her hands, muscle memory taking over as they approached the building using hand signals that hadn't changed since their last mission together. Tank held up his fist. "Stop!" Sam froze, listening to the night sounds around them. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Closer, she could hear the low murmur of voices speaking Russian. "3 guards, northeast corner," Tank whispered. "Standard patrol pattern." Sam nodded and activated her night vision goggles. The world turned green and grainy, but she could clearly see the guards Tank had identified. They were moving with military precision, definitely not random criminals. "Shadow Brigade," she confirmed. "These guys have training. Just like old times," Tank replied with grim satisfaction. Their comms crackled. "Overwatch to all units. We have movement inside the building. Estimate 12 to 15 hostiles. Heavy weapons visible." "Copy. Overwatch," Torres responded. "All units, weapons free. Remember, we need intel on the plutonium's location. Try to take at least one alive." Sam and Tank moved forward, using the shadows cast by shipping containers to approach the warehouse. As they got closer, Sam could hear voices more clearly, Russian mixed with Arabic, discussing guard rotations and cargo schedules. "Elena, you in position?" Torres asked. "Affirmative. Back entrance has 2 guards, but there's a window we can breach." "Lisa, what's the electronic situation?" "Building has basic alarm systems, nothing sophisticated. I can disable them, but it'll take 2 minutes." "Do it. All units, prepare for breach in 2 minutes." Sam settled into position beside the main entrance, Tank taking the opposite side. Through a grimy window, she could see the warehouse interior, stacks of cargo containers, makeshift offices, and armed men moving between them with purpose. 1 minute, Lisa announced. Sam's mind flashed back to Damascus, to their final mission together. They'd been hunting the wolf then, too, tracking him through a labyrinth of underground tunnels while Syrian forces closed in around them. Half their support team had died in that operation, and the wolf had escaped. "Not this time," Sam promised herself. 30 seconds. Tank caught her eye and nodded. They'd done this dance 100 times before. Breach, breach, breach. The warehouse erupted in chaos. Sam kicked in the front door as Tank threw a flashbang grenade into the main floor. The explosion was deafening, even with ear protection, and she moved through the doorway as armed figures stumbled around in temporary blindness. "Contact front!" she called out, engaging 2 hostiles who were trying to bring their weapons to bear. Her training took over. Controlled pairs, center mass, move, and shoot. Both targets dropped. Tank was beside her, his massive frame moving with surprising grace as he cleared the left side of the warehouse. His M249 light machine gun chattered, suppressing a group of hostiles behind a stack of cargo containers. "Back door clear," Elena announced. 3 down, moving to objectives. "Sniper has 2 KIA, 4 remaining on upper level," Angela reported. Sam advanced toward a makeshift office area, Tank covering her movement. Inside the first office, she found what they were looking for: shipping manifests, maps of European ports, and photographs of cargo containers. "Got intel," she called out. "Office complex, southeast corner. Copy Ghost, Marcus, David, secure that area." The firefight was brief, but intense. The Shadow Brigade operatives were well trained, but they weren't expecting a coordinated assault by Special Operations Forces. Within 6 minutes, the warehouse was secure. "All units, sound off," Torres ordered. "Elena, good. Lisa, good. Angela, good. Tank, good. David, good. Marcus, good. Ghost, good." Sam moved through the office complex, gathering documents and electronic devices. On a desk, she found a laptop still logged into an encrypted messaging system. The messages were in Russian, but she could make out enough to understand the basic content. "Torres, you need to see this," she called out. Her former team leader approached, reading over her shoulder as she scrolled through the messages. "Jesus," he whispered, "they're not just planning one attack." The messages revealed a coordinated operation targeting 6 American cities simultaneously: New York, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and Miami. Each location would be hit with a dirty bomb using the stolen plutonium, creating mass casualties and widespread panic. "And look at this," Sam said, highlighting another message. "The timeline's moved up. They're shipping the material tonight." "Tonight?" Torres grabbed his radio. "Overwatch, this is ground team. We need immediate extraction and fast transport to the port. The timeline just became critical." "Copy, ground team. Birds are inbound. ETA 4 minutes. Sam looked around the warehouse at the bodies of the Shadow Brigade operatives. They'd eliminated this cell, but it was just one piece of a larger operation. The real fight was just beginning. "Ghost," Tank called from across the warehouse. "Found something you're going to want to see." She jogged over to where Tank was standing beside an open cargo container. Inside were wooden crates, marked with Cyrillic text and radiation symbols. "Empty," Tank said grimly, "but the radiation signatures are still hot. This is where they stored the plutonium, which means it's already on its way to the ships," Sam concluded. The sound of approaching helicopters filled the night air. "All units, prepare for extraction," Torres ordered. "We've got 6 American cities to save and about 12 hours to do it." As they prepared to leave, Sam took one last look around the warehouse. Somewhere out there, the Wolf was orchestrating an attack that could kill millions of Americans. But Task Force Black was back together, back in the fight, and this time they wouldn't let him escape. The cargo ship Dmitry Volkov cut through the dark waters of the Black Sea 12 miles off the Romanian coast, its hull riding low with the weight of its deadly cargo. In the ship's command center, a man known only as the Wolf stood before a bank of monitors displaying satellite feeds of 6 American ports. Viktor Kozlov had been many things in his 45 years: Spetsnaz operator, FSB agent, arms dealer, terrorist. But tonight, he was the architect of the most devastating attack on American soil since 9/11. "Status report," he commanded in accented English, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "Container ships are approaching their designated ports," his Lieutenant Dmitry replied from behind a laptop. "New York and Miami teams report ready. Los Angeles is 12 hours out." The Wolf nodded, his scarred face reflecting the glow of the monitors. The scar that ran from his left temple to his jaw was a gift from his final encounter with Task Force Black in Damascus, a reminder of his only defeat and his motivation for revenge. "And our American contacts? Sleeper cells are in position. Trucks are staged, routes planned. When the containers arrive, we can have devices deployed within 6 hours. 6 dirty bombs," the Wolf thought with satisfaction. 6 American cities turned into radioactive wastelands. The economic damage alone would cripple the United States for decades, but the psychological impact would be even greater. Americans would never feel safe again. His satellite phone buzzed, an encrypted message from his contact in Constanza. The Wolf read it twice, his expression darkening. "Dmitry," he said quietly, "how long since you last heard from the Constanza team?" 4 hours, maybe 5. They were supposed to check in at midnight. The Wolf looked at his watch. It was nearly 2 a.m. "Send a message. Coded frequency." Dmitry typed rapidly, then waited. After 3 minutes with no response, he looked up nervously. "No reply, sir." The Wolf stared at the monitors, his tactical mind processing the implications. The Constanza warehouse was their primary logistics hub, containing shipping manifests, communication equipment, and backup plutonium samples. If it had been compromised. "How much did we store at the warehouse?" he asked. "The manifests, sir, and the communication logs from the past month." The Wolf's hands clenched into fists. "Those logs contain details of the entire operation. timing, targets, contact information for the American sleeper cells. In the wrong hands, they could unravel everything. "Get me Captain Morrison," he ordered. A few minutes later, the ship's captain appeared, a grizzled Romanian smuggler who'd been moving contraband through the Black Sea for 20 years. "Change course," the Wolf commanded. "I'd take us to international waters, maximum speed." "Sir, that will delay our schedule." "Do it." The Wolf's voice carried a threat that made the captain take a step back. As the ship changed course, the Wolf activated his secure communication system. If Task Force Black was back in the game, and he was increasingly certain they were, then the rules had changed. These weren't Romanian police or European intelligence agencies. These were the 8 soldiers who'd spent 2 years hunting him across 3 countries, who'd killed more of his men than any other unit in the American military. "Dmitri, activate the contingency plan." "Sir, contact our people in Norfolk, New York, and Miami. Tell them to move immediately. Don't wait for the shipments." "But sir, without the plutonium, they have enough material for 3 devices. Not 6, but 3 will still accomplish our objectives." The Wolf turned from the monitors to face his lieutenant. "And send a message to our contact in Washington. Tell him to proceed with the White House operation." Dmitri's eyes widened. The White House operation was supposed to be the final phase, executed only after the dirty bombs had created maximum chaos. It involved a single operative with a small radiological device targeting the president during an emergency response meeting. "Sir, are you certain? If we move too early, Task Force Black is hunting us again," the Wolf said grimly. "I know their capabilities. We have perhaps 6 hours before they locate this ship." He walked to the porthole and stared out at the dark water. Somewhere out there, 8 American soldiers were coming for him. The same 8 who destroyed his Syrian operation, killed his best men, and left him scarred and humiliated. But this time, he had advantages they didn't know about. 3 years of planning, sleeper agents throughout the American government, and most importantly, a psychological profile of each Task Force Black member that his FSB contacts had compiled during their forced retirement. The Wolf knew their strengths, their weaknesses, their fears. He knew that Samantha Chen suffered from survivor's guilt that made her take unnecessary risks, that Michael Torres struggled with the weight of command decisions that had gotten good soldiers killed, that Marcus Johnson's analytical mind sometimes paralyzed him in fluid situations. "Sir," Dmitri interrupted his thoughts, "incoming message from our American contact." The Wolf read the message, his scarred face splitting into a cold smile. "Perfect," he said. "It seems we have an unexpected advantage. Sir, Task Force Black's arrival in Washington triggered several intelligence monitoring systems. Our contact in the Pentagon now knows their operational status, their equipment loadout, and their current location." The Wolf turned back to the monitors, his mind already shifting from defense to offense. "Dmitri, send orders to our remaining European cells. I want them to converge on Task Force Black's position." "All of them?" "Sir, that will compromise our entire network." "The network is already compromised, but if we can eliminate Task Force Black, we still win. 3 dirty bombs in American cities plus the White House operation will achieve our primary objectives." The Wolf studied the satellite feeds showing American cities going about their normal business, completely unaware of the death approaching their shores. "Besides," he added with cold satisfaction, "I have a personal score to settle with these soldiers. They cost me everything in Damascus. Tonight, I repay that debt." As the Dmitri Volkov raced through the dark waters toward international waters, the Wolf began implementing a plan 3 years in the making. Task Force Black thought they were hunting him. They had no idea they were walking into a trap. "Dmitri," he said, picking up his satellite phone, "get me our contact in Bucharest. It's time to activate the Bucharest Gambit." The endgame was about to begin.